The Morrigan and Hecate. It's been a long time coming for me to finally speak about the Morrigan. I am doing this in my series that I've got on the channel where I am comparing Hecate with other deities, goddesses, gods, spirits, you name it. Now that series is called Hecate and ... It'll be linked at the end of this video. It's on the channel, of course. Hecate herself asked me to do it because Hecate is more complex than a lot of people realise, and even those that do realise that, I think she's not kind of represented in the way she would like, at least in my opinion. She basically is a face of the divine feminine, but she's not the only face of the divine feminine, and she's not the only face of the divine in general. And she has guided me to make this series with obviously my own opinions in there, but just to illustrate to people how connected she is with everything, but not just her, how connected the world is, how connected we are as humans as well, and that everything and everyone is just so connected in that way. I think we overlook that a lot, especially in this day and age, despite the fact we are literally more connected than ever with technology and social media. I do think there's a fair amount of gatekeeping, a fair amount of nastiness about in regards to stuff like that. So that's why we're making this series. Now, the Morrigan, if you don't know who she is, she's an intense and very powerful lady, goddess that is found within Celtic mythology, namely Irish mythology. Celtic mythology is a big umbrella term, and it seems that a lot of different cultures and countries are lumped into one thing when it comes to that. But Morrigan, you could say, is the spirit of Ireland in a way. She's one of the main deities from Irish culture. So how does an Irish goddess link to Hecate? Well, let's talk about it. Let's get into it. If you're new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. I'm Sarah, that divination witch. This channel is a safe space and community, so that just means you can ask questions, share opinions. We don't judge, okay? We don't tolerate crap here. So if you like that, hit subscribe, and if you would like to support me, help me make videos, continue to do this, all of my links are in the description. I'd be grateful if you could take a look. I have a shop website. I do lots of different readings. I've got Patreon, do readings on there. I teach on there as well. Got a lot going on. I'd be grateful if you could have a look. Thanks. The Morrigan. Now, I've got some notes here, but for me personally, I'll just give you my experience with her. Obviously, very powerful lady. She reached out to me not too long ago. She was actually around for a long time, and to be honest, today she was around at time of recording. She seems to do that. She is an ancestral god of someone in my extended family that I'm close with, and she's also linked with my ancestors, you know. So with that being the case, it makes sense that she would pop in, you could say. Now, when we are polytheists, we believe that, well, we can believe it however we want, but we do believe that there are different deities, different archetypes. We can say that they are their own separate beings. We can say that they are even just fragments of our own psyche. Everyone's got their own understanding of what a deity is. But regardless of what you think a deity is, as polytheists, we do believe in different energies. So therefore, we do work with many different energies, and it's not unheard of. So I'm putting that out there because a lot of people like to ridicule that, but then they call themselves a polytheist or a pagan or whatever. And it's like, well, aren't you meant to be stepping away from monotheistic traditions, you know? One true God and all this jazz is bullshit. So, yeah, you being a gatekeeper like that, it's a bit ironic. So I'm just putting that out there because, yeah, so I'm no different, okay? And maybe you're no different listening. It's your personal life, your personal practice. You do it how you see fit, okay? Morrigan, however, did reach out to me, and I, for a while, did accept that she was around. I have a little plaque for her on the wall. Instead of a statue, it's a carving I have for her. And I did work with her a little while, but it was very brief because it was before I did my Cliffothic initiations. My spirit team at the moment had other ideas, you could say, and I ended up doing the Cliffoth, going down the left-hand path within Kabbalah, Hermetic Kabbalah, and Lilith guided me through that. And even when she did that, it wasn't clear what was going to happen. I thought I was going to be doing the Sephiroth at first, and Lilith was like, no. Anyways, that's what happened. Maybe if Lilith hadn't done that and took the reins, I would have been working with Morrigan. I honestly don't know. Now, the way I see deities, however, is that they are archetypal energies, and that's why Hecate's got me doing this. Arguably, you could say that Morrigan and Hecate and even Lilith are like different faces of a same archetype. That archetype being the dark goddess. But then the dark goddess herself is split into different archetypes as well. You have your more warrior types, you have your more seductive types, you have your witchy hag types, you know. It's all different faces to the same core energy. And if we break it down even more, like really, they're all faces of the divine feminine. And the divine feminine is a face of the divine. The feminine and masculine come together to create, well, creation, the source energy. That's the way I see it anyways. And I do see Hecate as one name of the source. That's what I see her as. So Morrigan, going back to her, well, she is so primordial and powerful, and she has many aspects to her too that it wouldn't shock me if she too, like Hecate, was a name for the source. I'm not saying that people 100% believe what you want, you know, but that's the way I'm seeing it. So when I make these videos as well, I just want to preface, because sometimes people misconstrue this. Look, I am not removing deities from their cultures. I am not saying that the Irish would have said, oh, Morrigan is Hecate, because that's not the way it works. That's kind of disrespectful. Morrigan is Morrigan. She is her own being with her own backstory, mythology, culture that worshipped and still does worship her today, okay? And it's the same for any being, any deity, any spirit I talk about in this series, you know. We're not removing them totally from their culture. We're just showing the similarities. And if we boil it down, because we're also connected, you know, we're all linked together, they are kind of one and the same in a way. But Hecate is Hecate, Morrigan's Morrigan, okay? I hope that's making sense, sort of, I know. But yeah, right, so who is the Morrigan first? So yeah, she's an Irish deity, but she's known as the Great Queen, or sometimes the Phantom Queen. She is a primordial force of warfare, of death, of sovereignty, but also life and fertility. She's very complex like that. Now, she is more commonly known as a triple goddess in the same way Hecate is. And not exactly the same, okay? What I mean by that is, triple goddess, in the modern context, it's been taken by Wiccan belief that the triple goddess means maiden mother crone. And if you're a Wiccan, I'm not bashing you here, because that's not what we do here. There are some people out there that would bash Wiccans, but I don't, okay? Because each to their own, and if it wasn't for Wicca, we wouldn't be allowed or be able to be as mainstream as we are in the Western world about being pagans and witches, okay? But I've got videos on Wicca on the channel if you want to learn more. Essentially, though, the modern view of the triple goddess is not historically what the triple goddess is. There are many other goddesses out there that took triple forms, and not just goddesses but gods. And I do feel like Trinity is a magic number, like 3 is a magic number, okay? There's power in the number 3. 3 has also been taken by religion. If you think of Father, Son, Holy Ghost from Christianity, or Holy Spirit, that's another Trinity. Trinities are found all over the world, all over different cultures, different myths, different theologies, okay? Because within Trinity there is power. I've just noticed that as a synchronicity myself, and it's backed up by many different cultures. Just look it up, okay? So the Morrigan is a Trinity, as is Hecate, but not Maiden Mother Crone. So Hecate, when she is normally within antiquity, within history, known as a triple-formed goddess, it is because she looks into the liminal space, the past, present, future. And so when she is a triple goddess, she is normally in like her crossroads, guys, looking down each road, past, present, future, different aspects, different journeys you could take. She isn't limited to that, however, although that is a common form of hers, and I think that is in part thanks to the Romans and their adoption of her. They liked that epithet of her, you could say. But Hecate isn't just that, just like Morrigan isn't just this. But that's Hecate. She is also known as like a 4-faced goddess, a 5-faced goddess, sometimes a 2-faced goddess like Janus, who is another god for another day. All right, he's a liminal god too, okay? But it's a thing, commonly known as triple, and it's probably because there's power in the number 3. Morrigan is known as triple under 3 different names, sisters, you could say. So the Morrigan, said like that, she can be, to my understanding at least, all 3 rolled into one, or it's also a variant of one of the aspects. So we've got Bave, which I may be pronouncing it wrong because it's Irish spelling, B-A-D-B, which is the old Irish spelling for crow or battle crow. That is a warlike aspect. Morrigan is linked with crows and corvids. Crows and corvids are generally messengers, and they are linked with the afterlife. They are psychopomps. They guide spirits. So that aspect of her is an aspect of battle, bloodshed, fate, prophecy, and that's the crow aspect of her. Then we've got Matcha, which I'll be pronouncing that wrong because it's Irish spelling and I'm crap with pronunciations, but that is the next epithet of her. This is a more fertility side of her. Masha or Matcha means a field or a plain, fertility, a land. This side of her is about sovereignty. It is also linked with female power. It is linked with Ireland itself. Some say it's a personification of Ireland, the sovereign goddess of Ireland. Although it's not just Morrigan that's called that, but this is an aspect. And also it's linked with a myth where Matcha had to race a horse when she was pregnant and then gave birth on the finish line. Now horses are linked with Hecate too, and they're linked with other goddesses. I'm thinking of Rhiannon straight away. Rhiannon is another Celtic goddess from Welsh mythology. She'll be for another video. She is depicted with a horse, and horses, you could say, because it made me think of that, are also ferriers of the dead, a bit like crows. Like a horse can be something that takes you over to the other side. At least that's what it is in Rhiannon's mythos, you could say. And I know Hecate is linked with horses too. She's got more animalistic sides too, and who's to say that that's not the case there as well. Then for Morrigan, the third aspect is Nemain, which is another war type aspect, and this is the aspect that is sometimes interchangeably known as the Morrigan, and she is chaos, destruction, warfare, that kind of vibe. She is a warrior, very much so. So all three aspects there make up the Morrigan, and all three aspects there are the main aspects of the Morrigan, you could say. Kind of sums her up in a nutshell. Of course, she's more complex than that. She is known as other things as well, like the washer at the ford. That is linked with her mythology, where she is washing blood-soaked clothes before battle. It's like a prophecy thing, because she is linked with sovereignty and warfare, prophecy, and she's known as a shapeshifter, with shapeshifting often into the crow form, but she shapeshifts into other animals, like a cow is one such thing, and there are many other things. So commonly she is known as this war lady, self-sovereignty, magical, prophecy. She's known as a sorceress per se. Now this bit is my personal experience. When I first met Morrigan myself, I saw her with flaming red hair, and she reminded me of Boudica, or Boadicea, again, however you say her name. If you don't know who that is, Boadicea, or Boudica, was an Iceni warrior queen in Roman times, when the Romans were conquering Britain. Her tribe, the Iceni tribe, which I believe was like Norfolk. Yeah, I believe it was Norfolk. And she famously stood up to the Romans, and she caused a lot of trouble. And she was very brave and very powerful. Sadly, she didn't win, if you look her up, but she went down with a fight. You could say it like that. I won't get too much into that, but when I first met the Morrigan, she came through a bit like that, like this warrior queen, flaming red hair, this attitude about her that was like, wow, you're so damn powerful. But then as I got to know her a little bit more, over time, if ever I saw her, she was like the warrior queen. But that time when I said to you guys already how I accepted her in, and I was prepared to work with her, but nothing came of it because my team had other ideas and I went down a different road. But she showed herself to me more like Maleficent, like a sorceress with black hair, raven, inky black hair. She had a staff, a cloak, a crown, like a total sorceress. Now, I don't know, and if any of you work with the Morrigan, you can put it in the comments below, because I don't know enough myself to say. But I don't know if one element I saw at first was like a warrior element, you know. That's what I feel, like a different aspect. It's like working with Hecate. I've worked with Trivia as an example, and that's a very regal side of her. But I've also worked with other sides of her. I'm currently working with Phosphorus, very different. You know, they can manifest in different ways. So that was my experience with her personally. So then, I've explained who Morrigan is, and from that, if you know anything about Hecate, you'll see all the similarities there. So although Hecate is not a warrior per se, it's not to say that she doesn't have those aspects to her. She certainly does. She can be very fearsome. She can be very hands-on when needs be. She has aspects of all varieties. So I would not be shocked if she does have some sort of warrior aspect to her too. But regardless of aspects, Hecate, like the Morrigan, always had a say in what would happen in a battle. It is because Hecate rules the liminal space, the space in between. So the space in between is in between life and death, in between everything, like shadows. You know, her altars would be put up at thresholds and gateways and things like this, because it's the in-between. Think of it as in between anything she rules over, hence why she has such power in everything. She would have sway on who would win a battle. That's part of the reason Zeus feared her, because she could decide who won and who didn't, who lived and who died. Just like Morrigan. Morrigan, you could argue in a different way. She perhaps resides over that because she does have the war aspect to her, of course, but she is more than that. She's a prophetess herself and a psychopomp herself. She too decides who lives and dies, and therefore could the Morrigan not be a goddess of the liminal? Again, if you work with the Morrigan, you may know her more in depth than me in regards to that side of things, because it was very brief, my experience with her. But that's what I really feel, that their strong tie is this liminal space and the power they both have over life and death. They both are triple goddesses, commonly. They both rule over prophecy. They are both shapeshifters. They are both sorceresses. And they are both so primordial that I can't even put it into words. So yes, they're from other areas of the world, other cultures, but that energy is unmistakable. The core being of who they are is unmistakable, to me at least. And in a nutshell, that is the connection between Hecate and Morrigan. That's what I feel. Now, if you've got any further information to share, please do in the comments, because my so far work with the Morrigan was very brief, you know. I don't know her as in depth as Hecate, but I have mad respect for her. I really have respect for her followers as well. I had one of her followers on the channel a while ago when I was doing a few collabs, and her experience with the Morrigan was eerily similar to my experience with Hecate. Even the tests that I've been put through and she was put through, and it just makes me think, yep, Dark Mother, mother of all, source, creation, very much linked. And that's one of the goddesses, I'd say they're like that, you know, like very, very, very linked. Some others, honourable mentions off the top of my head, Kali, even Lilith to an extent, although some argue she's not a goddess, whatever. Just whatever to that, I'm not going to get into it right now. But yes, there are many like that. Yeah. Okie dokie. Hope this helped. I hope you found it interesting. If you want to learn more, check out the channel. The playlist for this I'll link at the end, but I've got over 100 videos about Hecate. I've got all sorts. I've got a playlist about Lilith. I've got loads on there. And again, all my links are in the description below if you would like to get a reading from me. Remember to hit like and subscribe. And until next time, stay safe, stay witchy. Bye, loves. Bye.